So Martin Shkreli, if you just Google most hated man in America, I think he comes up as number one. At least he did at the time when I first heard about him. He is known for, or he's known and hated for being a kind of a price gouger with a drug. So what he did was he owned a pharmaceutical company that focused on like small, like less popular drugs that were like niche. And he bought them. So he bought this drug called Daraprim, and he increased the price from like $13 to like 500 something dollars. I don't know what it was, but the percent was like, he increased it by 5,000%. And so people were, and then immediately the news picked this up, was like, oh man. And they started calling him the pharma bro, because first he did this. They were like, how dare you? But instead of apologizing and walking it back, he was like, fuck yeah, I did. I own this. I could charge what I want, like, and like, this is America. That's the price of this drug. And
he doubled down.
He doubled down, and he loves attention, and he's amazing at getting attention. A lot of the attention is hate, but he's amazing at getting it.
And he was only 33, 34 when he did this. And this was basically, he controlled 2 pharmaceutical companies that were each public at north of $1 billion in market cap, I think.
I don't know. I can't confirm those. That might be right. But he also had a hedge fund before that where he invested in biotech stocks.
Yeah, just like he had done big things.
And so he's a very smart guy. Now people think he's a crook. So some people said he was a crook because he raised the price of the drug. That's not a crime. That's just something you don't like. Then he actually got indicted and went to jail for doing something that was illegal, which I think was like, he basically paid investors from one company with like the stock of his other company, and then like wasn't clear or something like that. I don't know exactly what he went to jail for, but then he been in jail for 2 years.
He went back to jail, or his like he didn't get released early or something like that, for threatening Hillary Clinton. He didn't really threaten her, but he like made like a stupid joke on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so he just got out last week. That's kind of the funny part of this. So he gets out, and it's like, I don't know who's like a famous person that like everybody wanted to be freed. It's like, free Young Thug or whoever.
Like Martha Stewart.
Yeah, free Martha, like whatever. There was a group of people that were excited about his arrival. I was excited too, because I enjoy reality TV. I enjoy, the drama.
He's like our version of Kim. He's our Kim K. That's exactly what he is.
Exactly. So I wanted to see it play out, and so he comes back, and I just started thinking about Shkreli in general. So I have a couple ways we can go. We can go of things I find very interesting / borderline admire about the way he does things. And then there's what he has been up to in prison and what's interesting there. Where do you want to go? I have both.
I like both of those. So what has he been up to in prison? And the backstory, you actually need to mention this. The backstory was he was an early user of your product, Blab. And I spoke to him a couple times on Blab. And when the hustle first launched, we were in our first office. So this was in the first 6 months. We one of our reporters was this young woman named Brina, who was like a pretty like a good looking woman, and she DM'd him for a story, and he was like, hey, do you just want to like fly up here and we could like hang out? And like he was like asking her out, and so I have a little interaction with them as well.
So we had an app called Blab that was basically, if you've seen Clubhouse, it was Clubhouse before Clubhouse, and it had video on it, so it wasn't just audio, and it got sort of popular. Like, we tried using it. We tried getting podcasters to use it. We got some kind of like marketers to use it for their kind of like promoting their stuff. Then we started getting some bigger brands. The NBA started using it. UFC started using it. Oracle, but none of them could hold a candle to our number one power user, Martin Shkreli. Martin Shkreli came on the app and basically broke the app from day one. First time he came on, instantly the room filled up to like 5,000 people. And it was more people than we had ever had in one room before that. Hit our max limit. We were like, who is this guy? That's when I first Googled and found he's the most hated man in America. And he was famous enough to draw a ton of people in, but he was not famous enough to have other shit to do, which was the perfect sweet spot, which, as I said, he is the most lethal weapon in social media. He has since been surpassed by Donald Trump and Elon Musk as the most lethal weapon in social media. But before that, it was Martin Shkreli. And the reason I say that is because he creates a ton of content. So he would go on Blab every day from about 5 p.m. till 2 a.m. He would be on that whole time. And he was the master at creating nightly entertainment. Like, Jimmy Fallon, Jay Leno, you guys can't touch this guy in terms of nightly entertainment. because he has no producers, no script, no nothing. He would hop on, and somehow or another, he would cause enough ruckus that this room would have thousands of people in it all night long watching it. We were hooked to it. And we would see this in our data. Like, people wanted us to kick him off because, again, he's a bad guy for raising the price of this drug. And like, he said this thing that wasn't cool, but this guy was driving in hundreds of thousands of new users to us every single month. And so I was like, I'm not trying to kick this guy off. Like, this guy's like, he's where the action's at.
This was 2017, 2018. Cancel culture wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, I'm a startup. I'm going to do what it takes to get off the ground. Like, yeah, Bitcoin used the Silk Road to like get off the ground. And like, YouTube started as a dating site, and Facebook, before this, he did Face Mash comparing like which girl's hotter. Like, okay, not everything starts with like the most like clean cut, thing. Airbnb started by like faking and scraping, Craigslist sites and, emailing them as fake people saying, I'd love to book your thing. Can you just list on Airbnb? Like, dude, people do what they have to do to get your project started. And so we had Shkreli, and I used to watch it. At first, what I noticed was everybody who came in to throw stones at this evil man who raised the price of this drug. But he did not sit there and apologize or whimper. He like fought back, and he would give his side of the argument. He would invite you up for a debate. And that's when you saw how strongly held opinions could be with no logical backing, with no real rationale behind it. The argument was so hollow. And this was not just like average people, people who were like very successful business people would come on trying to like kind of stand on their high, be on their high horse, telling him what he should do. And then he would like dismantle their argument. Journalists from CNN and other places would come on, he would dismantle them. And he's doing a combination of like A, making fun of them, B, hitting on them, and C, breaking down their logical arguments all at the same time. I've never seen anything like it. And I just thought, wow, this guy is very entertaining. I don't agree with everything he's saying, but I think he's very entertaining. And so the data doesn't lie. He is very entertaining. He's
and I think later on in some of the blabs, he would have like these like cute women in the background, and they like clearly I just met him on Blab, and he was just like, hey, I'll fly you out. You want to hang out? So
this is what started happening. Everybody started off hating him. So after about 3 weeks, he developed an army of believers, of people who were, there's a guy who became
creeps.
Yeah, the creeps. And so this guy came on, his name was Young Shkreli. And when Martin was tired or had to go eat, Young Shkreli would go hold court, and he would just be like an extreme knockoff version of Martin. And he would just hold court defending him until Martin came back to defend himself. And then all these women started joining, and they loved him. And they would just hang out there all the time. And they were like, when they were not like cam girls or model, they were like actual models, fashion models, cam girls, OnlyFans people, whoever. And they would get on, and they would just be like, Martin, just like, I don't know, I would date you. And they would just get on, and so the room was always filled with like his posse. And it was like, you go to like, where a mob lord is at, and he's got his goons, and he had his goons, dude. And his army was just growing. But within a couple months, the number of people who loved him outweighed the number of people who hated him. And it was like the most surprising thing. It was like watching a cult form in real time. It was fascinating. And I remember the CNN journalist came on, and she was like, Martin, I know everybody kind of, attacks you, but I don't want to attack you. I just want to ask you some questions. He's like, well, you're on my show. Let's go. She's like, no, I want you to come on CNN. He's like, this is better than CNN. He's like, you're on my show. You have questions. Let's go. These are my terms. You can ask any question you want. No holds barred, right here, right now. And if you're not prepared, come back and prepare, but you could do it right here on my show. And she's like, I'm not going to do that, Martin. I can only do it there. He's like, and he's like, all right, fine. Come with me to my fundraiser gala tonight. I'll fly you out. He screen shares, he buys her a plane ticket, and like he's like, what's your email address? I'm sending this to you. And she's like, I'm not going on a date with you, Martin. And he's like, who said it's a date? And then he's like, he's just playing people perfectly. And so,
didn't she end up quitting? One of the women who hollered at him from Washington Post ended up quitting the job. And
so this is part of what's remarkable. When he goes to jail, this woman from WashPo or someplace is assigned to cover him or cover the story. Falls in love with him, breaks up, like she has a family, she has a husband, kids, I think, leaves them for Martin, falls in love with Martin while he's in prison. And then Martin breaks her heart, and she's heartbroken now. And like, whatever, she gave it all up. She gave up her career and her family for Martin and fell in love with him. This guy's got some cult leader shit to him. So anyways, he did some crazy stuff when he was on Blab. Like he was so loyal to his army that he'd be like, I got a date tonight, but don't worry, I'm leaving Blab on. So he would leave it on in the other room, and you could eavesdrop and overhear his date, which is, again,
oh my God,
primetime entertainment. Is it wrong? Yeah. Is it entertaining? Yeah. It is. And so this guy was phenomenal. Anyway, so I found this guy interesting. He would also do things. So like from a marketing perspective, I was observing, how is this guy staying relevant? Like that drug shit was years ago. Like how is he staying relevant? He would just do stuff. So like Wu-Tang Clan had an album that they were selling like a 1 of 1 for their biggest fans. He bought it for $2 million. And so now this guy that they didn't want, so they got in a feud with him. He had this thing. And then on Blab, he would play like snippets, like 10 seconds of the album. And no one's ever heard it before besides him, but he would just like tease it, dangle it. Like
the original NFT.
When there was like some building for sale in Times Square, he tried to buy it for $10 million to like erect a statue of himself in Times Square. And again, it gets covered. So he was just newsjacking constantly. He was just hijacking the news and putting his own name front and center.
Did he have money when he got arrested, or like because I think he was actually like he showed a brokerage account that had like $70 million in it.
Yeah, I think he had like somewhere between $50 and $75 million if I remember at the time.
But then he like had to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah, and I think at one point, ironically, his attorney that was defending him raised his price by 5,000% and started charging him $60,000 per hour. And like, I don't know if this is real or not, but Martin came out in the news, was like, this is outrageous. And like, people were like, dude, the irony, you know, pot calling the kettle black. It's like, of course, this is just another article he wanted written about him. And like, he's just a master of getting attention. He did so many things like this. I can't even count the number of things he did like this. That I was like, wow, this guy just knows how to stay in the cycle and like constantly like reinvent himself. Cause then he would like, just when he pushes you away, he'd lure you back in. So like, for example, on Friday nights, he would hold like, you know, his nightly Blab thing where he's thousands of people and it's like a roast session and he's saying outlandish shit. And like, you just feel yucky for being in there. And then Saturday morning, he would wake up at 8 a.m. and he would do a live finance like session where he would teach you how to analyze stocks. And they were great, phenomenal. And
I watched a bunch of them.
They're still on YouTube. You can go watch them. He's very smart and he was so thoughtful and patient as a teacher. He's a fantastic teacher. And so anyway, so that's like the backstory. So anyways, he gets out and he said, they're like, how was prison? Right. He gets out, he immediately jumps on Twitter Spaces. Oh, by the way, actually, that's another funny story. When he had to go speak in front of Congress or Congress, I guess he had to go testify. He goes there and he just with a smug look kept saying like, I will take the Fifth Amendment. You know, I choose to elect my Fifth Amendment rights to not speak. He just said that on loop for an hour, but he was smugly smiling and just pissing them off. And he was drawing the whole time. And then as soon as he left the courtroom, he jumped on Blab from his phone on the train and he goes, all right, who wants to see my drawings? He shows his drawings of like dicks and stuff like that he was drawing on his piece of paper. And he's live. The hearing was still going on and he embedded it in one screen and he was just talking mad shit about the Congress people in the other screen at the same time. Again, it was just like high level social media usage. So anyways, he got on Twitter Spaces and they're like, how was prison? And he goes, oh, it was awesome. He's like, he's talking about the prison system and like how unjust it is and how, you know, he's like, you know, 95% of the people that were in there, you know, had like traumatic childhood issues with parents and stuff like that. He's like, I hustled out like other people's lockers, you know, so I could store more books. And he's like, he basically was like, so what was his like summary? So first he's been blogging. Have you read his blog from prison?
No, but what did he say about prison? I mean, I bet you he was actually well respected there.
Yeah, he's like, dude,
because everyone's like, tell me some stories.
Yeah, exactly. And so he was kind of like, you know, had his crew there or whatever. He said he created a crypto study group. So what did he say? He goes, when everybody else was working out in prison, I would read because brain gains are all that matters, not muscle gains. Cause he's like real scrawny.
Oh my God.
He's like, I created a group called Crypto Thugs in prison. And it was just me teaching crypto to the rest of my fellow like inmates or whatever. And he had a bunch of like interesting stuff. So, he had a bunch of predictions about crypto that were in there. He basically spent his whole time studying about crypto and artificial intelligence, and like biohacking and stuff like that. So he's got this blog post with a shit ton of predictions about the future. I'll read you a couple of his.
I'm on his blog. It's martinshkreli.com, right?
Yeah, I think so. So, I'm gonna read you some predictions on here. So 2025. So about 3 years from now. Self-driving cars are the successor to mobile computing. They trend upwards. People spend 8 hours a day in your car. Tesla nears $10 trillion market cap. Musk becomes the first trillionaire. 2026, an AI-generated, maybe GPT-4 song gets created with zero human editing and direct participation and charts on Billboard. 2030. Virtual reality / metaverse is ubiquitous, widely used. All you needed was a comfortable, ergonomic optical interface. That's what was the limiting item.
I think he's wrong on that one.
2030, vehicles, self-driving cars reach majority penetration in the US. Car accidents drop by more than 50%. And he just keeps going. He goes out to like 2050. He's making predictions as to things like, 2050. The lifespan for a newborn is now 100 to 125. 90% of non-surgical medicine is automated. Blah, blah, blah. Like most contract law is automated on chain. And so he keeps going. Now, right or wrong, you could disagree with all these, but he's just a very interesting thinker, very interesting guy to follow, right? And he does these book reviews that are like very hilarious, where he's like, this book, 3 out of 5. First 3/4, giant waste of time. Last fourth, interesting about this topic. It's like, oh, good. Like you saved me a bunch of time reading that book. Like I kind of trust your opinion on these things. And so I don't know, his blog is worth a read.
I tweeted out asking to get him on the pod, but I had no Twitter handle to tag. I didn't know who he was, or which it was kind of hidden. We maybe found the right one. But we should get him on. I feel like we're big enough that we can get him.